I have to admit, zombie movies don't have the same appeal to me that they had years ago. Now, I remember coming out of film school, and there were two types of movies that film students always wanted to make. There was the mafia gangster movie or a zombie movie. Now, with gangster movies, everyone's seen enough of them, so they can kind of approximate the dialogue and story. And with zombie movies, you just need a few friends, some makeup, and some blood, and you could do a zombie movie. At the time, zombie movies were still kind of a niche thing. Every once in a while, a new spin on a zombie movie would come out. Fast zombies, slow zombies, superhuman zombies, but it was spaced out fairly well. Then it hit big with The Walking Dead. That show became a huge hit, and with good reason. I really enjoyed the show the first couple of seasons. As the show started to wax on season after season, the mania that hit pop culture became insane. Zombies were everywhere. And after 10 seasons of the show, it has two spin offs, I think two spin offs, and a movie. Now, seemingly, it has been non stop zombie saturation for 15 years. It has been a global phenomenon, the likes of which George Romero probably never imagined. Now, The Sadness is a 2021 Taiwanese movie about a young couple that are separated by a city during a virus outbreak and what they have to do to find each other again. Now, first, I want to talk about the good here. And to be sure, there's a lot to like. The blood effects are amazing. It has to be the bloodiest zombie movie I have seen in a while, possibly the most realistically bloody, anyway. And from what I read, 99% of the blood effects in this film are practical, and they look like it too. Really top notch. Story wise, this movie is like a cross between 28 Days Later, The Happening, and Dead Alive. Now, Dead Alive part is really accounting for the sheer volume of blood. Although Dead Alive was more cartoony and tongue in cheek, where this one plays it pretty straight down the middle. The production value is excellent as well. Spaces feel real and lived in. It portrays a city in chaos really well. Also, as a note, this movie was released in 2021, so it was most likely filmed in 2020, which was in the heart of the coronavirus. Now, like most zombie movies, there's a fair bit of social commentary here as it relates to pandemics and how the general public reacts to both them and the people in power, as well as what it turns people into. It clearly drew inspiration from that, but I'm actually more surprised they were able to film this somewhat largish scale film given the lockdowns that were happening across the globe. Now, from a story perspective, it really centers on Jim and Kat, a young couple who separate in the morning for work and then spend the rest of the day trying to get back together. Now, to be honest, that's kind of it on the story front. There are little bits about the virus here and there, but not really much. It's a very, very simple story. And this is where I have to get into the bad. Actually, it's not that it's bad, not at all. I would say it's just sort of typical. Now, that may not matter to you, and that's totally fine. For me, if this movie had come out 15 years ago, I would be screaming about it from the rooftops. But it didn't. And so if you have seen a lot of zombie movies, it's all the standard beats of a zombie movie where the movie is broken up into these little vignettes. Yes, they are scenes, but it's really more like levels in a video game. The characters are in a situation, a zombie gets in, and they have to fight or escape their way out. Now, they can be arranged in just about any order, and you don't necessarily learn too much about the characters themselves beyond the obvious surface level information. Although technically, I should note, these are not zombies. They aren't undead. Instead, it's a virus infection that essentially destroys the part of the brain that governs social restraint, kind of forces everyone to engage in the most sadistic tendencies with no filter. It's an interesting take on the genre as people are not mindless, but instead psychopathic killers. It devolves into a lot of sexual violence as well. It's kind of like that video from Event Horizon where the rescue crew finds a video of the former crew in hell. It's basically just everyone engaging in the most depraved, bare urges a human could have. I mean, everything gets mutilated or stabbed or fucked or sometimes all three. So, yes, they are different. They aren't zombies. But it also doesn't really matter. It's kind of the same result. It's still a large, spreading, infected group of people mindlessly trying to murder uninfected people. So, then what's the difference? My biggest thing with zombie style movies is whatever the type of zombie it ends up being, the story kinda is the exact same. The main characters are chased from set piece to set piece as they have to kill their former friends and family and escape from the hordes of deadly citizens. In this one, people still retain the ability to think, but that never really comes into play. They still act like regular zombies when the movie needs them to. For me, zombie movies are more interesting when it's focused on the characters versus the zombies. I always wonder why they never introduced a zombie movie with a cure as a possibility. Like, it's talked about a little bit, but never in a realistic way. The concept that if they get a person to the right medicine, they can be saved, I always felt that would add additional stakes. Whereas before, it's a certainty. If you're infected, your wife or your brother is gone, and so killing them is sad but necessary. But to know that they could be saved if they just got the right medicine, I always thought would add a nice level of conflict to whether or not to kill them. Like, maybe they would end up going further than they would to try not to kill them. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there is a movie out there that does that, but I just haven't seen it. Anyway, if you like zombie movies or zombie style movies with a lot of blood that keeps moving and really digs deep into trying to go to the extreme in everything, you'll probably really like this movie. I mean, I didn't dislike it by any means. I can appreciate the amount of effort that went into it, and it was made extremely well. Everything works the way it's supposed to, and it's certainly a quality film. But for me, it's still just the same beats over and over again, and other than a truly massive amount of blood and guts thrown around, which I always give points for, it doesn't do much new for me to care. I'd give this movie a B, but let me know what you think.